G'day, Dan here. Today I'm doing my first brew video, changing up from barbecuing. Got into all grain about 6-8 months ago from doing the kits. Something I haven't turned back since. I've been all grain brewing ever since. Kind of brew in a bag system, but I use the mash tun with the bag that filters through, and then drain it into my pot, and then sparge it through another bigger pot up there. I'll go through that in a sec. This is a pale ale that I've done before. I've got my grains all here ready, I cracked before. So I've basically used 2 kilograms of Pilsener, 2 kilograms of pale ale, and I've used 15 EBC Munich malt to get a lighter colour. Last time I did this one, I put in 200 grams of oats, flaked oats. This time I've done the same, but I've also added 100 grams of flaked wheat. So that's the grain bill for it. I'm going to get ready soon and start. I'm just waiting for my water to come up to temperature, but my basic setup. As you can see, I've just got a boil pot. I've got the bazooka arm in there, have the hop spider, tap, thermometer. I made all this up. It's a $50 eBay pot. Just my esky, which was $30 esky from Bunnings, and an old pot I had there that I put my hot sparge water into when I've got that to temperature just before I'm about to sparge. Brew in a bag basically, but in the esky so I can mash. I did a brew yesterday, so this is not the cleanest, but I just rinsed it out because this is my second brew for the weekend. I just keep this here above that so that once the bag's in there, the grain will actually sometimes stop the liquid coming out. So yeah, I'm going to mash this in, mash these grains in, and I'll come back, go into the boil. Okay, so we've got that mashing in now. I don't know if you can see that thermometer. It was up to 66 degrees before, so I've given this a real good stir. It's just building up there then. Now, no, you won't be. Oh, you can just see it. It's turned off. Of course it has. But yeah, it was at 66. So I'm mashing this in at 66 degrees. Or I'm out of battery. No. 65 there now. So 65, 66. The mash water I put in here was, I think, 72, 73 degrees. And that will hold temperature fairly well in this over the next hour. So that's at 66. So I'm happy with that. So that'll now mash in for the 1 hour mark, 60 minutes. Just put the lid on here. So under that lid, I've actually got a sparge arm that I've built into it. But that also has a double benefit of keeping the heat in. So I've got about 5 minutes left in the mash, and I've just turned my bore valve on and set my pump up. I only got this. I've used it once before to whirlpool some hops in on my last NE IPA, which I did yesterday as a trial run for a NEPA. So I've set this up. Unfortunately, I need to get bore lock valves and probably put a bore valve there to control the speed. But like I said, I've got that the sparge arm that I've built into the top there, so it's sort of a bit roughly set up, but it'll do the job hopefully. So I'm going to put this in, plug it in. Bear with me. See how this goes. There we go. And then start recirculating that with 5 minutes left in the mash. I know people do it throughout the whole mash, but due to the temperature here in Canberra, I think I'd lose a fair bit of heat. It's still fairly warm. A fair bit of heat through the tubing through doing that. So yeah, that's just recirculating that through the whole lot. So I'll recirculate that for the last 5 minutes of the mash. Then I've got my pot boiling in the stove to put into my my sparge tank there, so I'll get that all ready. Okay, so that's hit the 60-minute mark for the mash. So now that's in there, I've let that go a few more minutes. This is full. So I'll turn this off, get this off here, and close that up there. So now I'm going to set this up. Obviously, I'll hook this up to the sparge tank here. And I don't want to waste too much liquid, so hopefully I can get away with doing that without having liquid go. And just bear with me. So this, probably need to come this way a bit. Now this water in this sparge tank, I've got at 80 degrees. It won't be that now. It'll have lost a little bit, but that's okay. I want it to get down to about 70 anyway. Found that sparging around that 70 degree mark, the same as what I've done there, doesn't tend to wash any tannins out. So I don't really want to lose all my liquid, so I'll just drain that into there like that. Okay, so now I'm set up. I've got that set up, running into here. That will go slowly onto the side of the pan, or side of the pot. Just start to open that up just slightly till some liquid comes out. There we go. So I only want to do this slow. Same up here. See our water here. And just open that slowly. Should have some. You can see that very slowly dripping out there. So I want to do this over about 45 minutes. So I'll be able to monitor that, watch that as that sparges out. I'll do my hop additions. So this liquid, through that reticulation, I'll just get a sample. There goes the kelpie. Keep going. So this here is a sample of that wort. It's not too bad. A little hazy, like I said, but that's fine. I've used the flaked wheat and the oats, but it's only haze. It's actually fairly clear as far as debris go. I don't know if that, looking at it from the top's a little bit better. And you can see it's got some clarity to it. So I'm happy with that. I'll come back. This is progressing nicely. It's been about 10 minutes or so now. One thing I will mention, so this is 28 litre esky. I have mashed in with about 15 litres of water, and there's another 15 up there. So this pot here is 35 litres. It's 35 centimetres high, so I'm assuming it's about 1 litre per centimetre. I always seem to end up with about 22 to 23 litres in the fermenter once I'm finished. So I usually go up to that top, this ring mark here when I'm filling up. So that's, yeah, I've used 1 kilo or 1 kilo of grain to 3 litres of water for my mashing. Got my hop additions ready. I'm using 8 grams of Azacca. 12.6% alpha acids. That's going to be my bittering hop for 60 minutes. And I'm using 19 grams of US Citra, 12.8% alpha acids. So here, got those measured out, ready to go for when I'm at the boil. Once again, yeah, Azacca will go in for 60 minutes and the US Citra will go in for 15 minutes. I'm then going to dry hop with, haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that yet. Last time I used 15 grams of Citra, 15 grams of Dorado and 30 grams of Mosaic. But I've got this lemon drop here, which I'm not going to add any into the boil, but I'm only going to dry hop with it. So I'm going to give 30 grams of lemon drop, and I might even go 30 grams of Dorado with 3 days to go. We'll see how I feel at the time. Okay, so I'm now at the boil, and I'm using unfortunately the sun's a bit of a bugger at the moment, getting in the way there, but that's boiling away nicely, so I'll adjust that temperature or the gas on there. I'm going to add my Azacca hops. I'm using these because the homebrew shop owner who I go to, the local homebrew shop, said the Azacca is a cleaner bittering hop than the Citra. I've been using Citra for 60 minutes. I've been using 6 grams at 60 minutes. I'll just adjust that quickly. Oh, there we go. I've been using 60 grams for, 6 grams for 60 minutes. I've gone to the Azacca because, under the advice of my homebrew shop owner, it's a slightly cleaner bittering hop, and it's also cheaper to use. It's not so much a flavouring hop than it is a bittering hop. So I'm just going to add that now into my hop spider. This here is a one I got from Kegland. It's fairly tall, so it just doesn't quite fit in the hop. Doesn't quite fit in my pot, but that's all right. And I'll let that go for 60 minutes. I'll just set that timer. Okay, so this has been boiling away for about 44 minutes. I've got about 30 seconds before I need to add the 15-minute addition. I accidentally said 45-minute hop before, I meant 15. My dog's trying to get his ball thrown. So now I'm going to add that 19 grams of Citra into this, and I'll also Werflock tablet that. So 19 grams of Citra in there, and then break apart, and the Werflock tablet in there as well, with 15 minutes to go. I've put my wort chiller in, so that's ready to go as well, just sanitizing that. So in 15 minutes I'm going to take the hops out. You can already get the aroma of those Citra hops in there. So hopefully this goes well. I'm actually drinking this beer, which is the same as this, except for 6 grams of Citra at 16 minutes. It's 60 minutes instead of the Azacca. So in 15 minutes I'll come back, we'll pull those hops out, and then we'll start chilling that. Alright, so we're at the 0 minute mark. I'm going to pull this out. and let that drain. The one thing I found about this hop spider, it's really fine mesh, and it clogs up easily. It's got all the proteins from the grain gritted to it. I stirred it up before. I've pulled it out once or twice during the boil and just let it drain out and let it refill a couple of times. I'll let that drain out completely, and what I'll do now is I'll set this up so that I'm ready to chill it out. I've got the chiller in there, like I said before. The Werflock's in there. I can turn that gas off. I'll chill that down, and then we'll get that ready for the fermenter. So that's chilling at the moment. This is a beer I did very similar to that a few weeks ago with a grain bill, exactly the same as the grain bill I've done today. The only difference being I did a 60-minute boil with 6 grams of Citra and a 15-minute boil with 19 grams of Citra. Whereas today I've used the 8 grams of Azacca hops for the bittering hop. I dry hopped this one with 4 days left, and then cold crashed it overnight for a day. And I used 25 grams Mosaic, 10 grams of Citra because it was all I had left, and 15 grams of Dorado, and it's come up quite well. This one here I'm probably going to do similar. I'll do maybe 15 grams of Citra though, because I've got plenty, 15 grams of Dorado, and I'm going to use 30 grams of the lemon drop hop to dry hop this, once again with 4 days left in the ferment. So I'll ferment it for about 8-9 days, and then I'll dry hop it for another 4, and then I'll cold crash it overnight. With this beer here, same as the one I'm making now, I've used the US05 Safe Ale yeast. It's come up really well. It's got that haze to it, which I'd expect because I've added the 200 grams of oats. But with this one here, I've also added 100 grams of flaked wheat just to see how that turns out. But it's quite a good beer and I really enjoy it. So I'm going to put this one in the fermenter once it's chilled down to below 20 degrees, and obviously I'll just add the yeast straight to the top, sprinkle it on top. I'll sanitize the packet with scissors first. Add that, and 14 days of fermentation. I have a fridge out the back as well, which I use with the climate controller, and I'll keep that temperature at about 18 degrees Celsius to brew it. And like I said, it's actually quite a good beer. I really enjoy it. So just the only difference this time is I'm using the lemon drop hop instead of the Mosaic. So that's how I brew on my system anyway, and that's the Citra Pale Ale. I really love the Citra taste in beer, so I wouldn't mind trying some, I think it's Mandarina Bavaria, a different type of hop, which is a German hop, and using that maybe with the Citra and the lemon drop, and then maybe put a touch of Dorado in to balance that. The Dorado is a bit more, what do you put, earthy or pine flavoured, so I'm hoping that Dorado will balance out the citrus, which it's done in this. This is the second or third one of these I've brewed exactly like this recipe here. I've just changed it up a little bit today to add the lemon drop hop. Anyway, hopefully try that recipe out. Like I said, it was 2 kilos of Pilsener, 2 kilos of Munich with a 15 EBC, 1 kilo of Munich with a 15 EBC, and 2 kilos of ale malt, pale ale malt. So give that one a go, see what you think. Obviously my brewing method, the way I do it, I'm open to suggestions. I've only been doing all grain for probably 6 to 12 months now, not long. Before that I used a lot of cans, whatever, Cooper's Pale Ale, Cooper's different Cooper's kits, and they weren't that good. And I wondered why I couldn't get a good beer, and well, all grain, the first ever all grain I did was basically just 100% Citra hopped and turned out brilliant. I love my pale ales, and Citra's a really good hop to hop with. So anyway, hopefully you get something out of that and try that recipe. I'll leave it in the description below when I figure out how to do that. Anyway, until next time, this is Dan, out.